Think about the rhetorical aspect of writing. It does get blended with the structural a little bit in what I'm about to talk about and what I'm about to discuss. We'll talk more about the structural aspect of writing in other places, though if you've already watched videos that I've given on genre, or even just the basic essay, these structure things will, some of the structure principles will connect, and so you'll understand how that works. For now, I'm just going to focus in for this video and a couple of the next ones on the specific structures to rhetorical, specific or common rhetorical structures that you'll see. So some common, well-known ones are the classical Greek oratorical form. And the next one's Rogerian. There's a Toolman model, and then there's IMRD or IMRAD, and that's more of a scientific lab report, intro methods, results discussion. So these videos can be both considered structural, the structural aspect of writing, or the rhetorical aspect of writing, depending on how you what you're really focused on. A lot of times, structure is influenced by your rhetorical purpose, which is what we learn about genre, which is why genre is that unicorn of writing that applies to all 8 aspects. Anyways, let's dig into the content for today. So if we are just digging into the classical Greek oratorical form, this is so we've got these 6 parts, right? Exordium, narratio, partitio, confirmatio, refutatio, peroratio, all that fun stuff. And so when we look at this structure, though, it is something that we get from the Greeks. It is something that was designed for political engagement in the Agora, the Greek Agora, and the political forums of the time. It should be noted that this form was designed to allow people to make arguments either to defend themselves in a legal sense or to defend a political opinion in the polis, where primarily the people who got to speak in the public setting were citizens, Greek citizens usually, who were also, I believe, landowning and male. There were other places in Greek society, primarily for women, and unfortunately, that's something you just have to know about this version of Western rhetoric, or this track of Western rhetoric. That's its origin, but it was primarily that may come into play as we talk about some comparisons to other models. If we talk about if we're thinking gender stereotypes of traditionally masculine forms of argument or feminine forms of argument, it becomes a necessary thing to address. So that's a thing. So let's talk about these. With the classical Greek oratorical form, it may actually sound familiar, but first you introduce a problem and win an audience. That's exordium. Then you tell the story of your problem or the context, provide that context necessary background so that your audience knows you're knowledgeable. That's narratio. You can see where we get narrative or narration in. So that's just kind of describing the facts. Here's the situation as I see it. Then there's partitio, which is where I part from the general consensus. So this is where I lay out my basic argument. I break down my basic argument and make it clear. Next, I spend a period of time confirming my argument or backing it up hardcore. I made these slides in like 2013, so it's kind of interesting to go back and look at them. But then after we've confirmed our own opinion, confirmed our argument, it should be more than an opinion. We might talk about that in another video. Opinion versus argument, 2 different things. One has support, one doesn't. So we confirm using all those things we know about meaningful evidence and meaningful appeals to confirm our argument. And so that might tie to the scientific aspect of writing as we provide evidence and knowledge to back up our claims, or just sequencing of logic in an analytical way. So it may tie to both. And then refutatio is where we refute or challenge, recognize alternate views, and drop the hammer on them. Bust a Thor. Suddenly got an image of Captain America 2 where Thor's there, and there's, or maybe that's the first Avengers now, I can't remember. Anyway, so after that we get peroratio, where we summarize arguments and light a fire under the audience. Figuratively, of course, not literally, because that's not good. With that structure should actually sound really familiar if you look at it, you see I introduce my problem, I provide background information, I give you my main argument. Then I provide substantial evidence and challenge other viewpoints and summarize it all and tell you where to go, what next steps to take. That sounds a lot like our traditional humanities-based persuasive essay. Ta-da, this is the form we use. This is where we get it from. And so the thing to be aware of is that there are values embedded in this. First, if you look at these 6 points, you might just think, hey, shouldn't those be equally spaced throughout my paper? There are 6 different pieces. I should do each of them equally and well. So do they get the same amount of space? And the truth is, no, they don't. This section right here, exordium, narratio, partitio, those are usually really fast. They get you into your introduction, get you through that initial introduction in an academic essay, which some people usually say is 10 to 15%. Maybe 20% in a shorter essay, maybe 20% at most of your overall length of essay, of writing. Then you've got the confirmatio refutatio, where I'm confirming and refuting, and confirmation we usually see a lot more time spent on confirming our own arguments and beliefs, and that sort of thing. Hopefully that and refutatio also kind of get tags into there, though it usually happens later after I've established what my argument is. And so when we look at this model, confirmatio refutatio is usually like 70-ish, 60 to 75% of what we see here, and then maybe even up to 80 if people aren't really great at concluding. Aren't really great at writing those conclusions. And so that is a substantially disproportionate part of the structure. Then we get to the end, conclusion, as I've talked about conclusions generally in other parts, in other videos. This is usually, most students say in my class 5 to 15%. People aren't usually effective at writing conclusions. They don't get that part where you need to walk through the 3 or 4 steps where you go back and you state your main claim again and your main points, and kind of get the final sum up of those key points, and then finally what those next steps are. So go and watch my video on conclusions if you want to know more about that. So this is the classical Greek oratorical form. It's essentially a basic essay. Here are the reasons why it matters that this is the heritage. This tends to be a very aggressive form. Using the classical Greek form in the way we do now gets us past background information very quickly. It's grab the attention, keep them focused, give them just enough information to get to what you think and why what you think is important, why I'm right, why other people are wrong, and what you need to do about it. It's very forward. It can be very pushy, especially if it's just done in a very raw form. But even if someone's trying to be aware and sensitive to an audience, and especially those who don't agree with them, the structure itself has embedded rhetorical principles or rhetorical values built into why the structure is the way it is and the proportion each piece gets. That's important because a lot of people there are a lot of people who have this rhetorical training that ends up feeling like who end up getting this kind of lawyer or politician training or speech and debate training, who can do this really well. They're really good at winning arguments, whether they're right or wrong. They're really good at winning arguments, winning debates, not really good at keeping friends, because they'll use this form and it gets so embedded in the way that we talk to other people when we do it well, that we actually almost power drive through the other person on the other side of the table or sitting next to us. And so really great at winning arguments, not so great at keeping friends. So if you don't do this well, you have to, or if this is kind of your one note structure, you may actually find yourself getting in more trouble. You may be really great at arguing a point and winning arguments and not keeping friends. That's important. This is going to be video 1 for this. I'm going to go next to Rogerian, talk a little bit about how that compares and contrasts, and then we'll keep moving through. Thanks for watching.